Well, John has now entered into the throne room of God. And that in last chapter, chapter 4, the scene was set. He's before the Lord. There's 4 living creatures. There's 24 elders. There's worship going on. But I mentioned in the last chapter that this is a courtroom. And now we're going to start to see the legal proceedings unfold in this chapter. You might say, what legal proceedings? The clue is really early in the chapter. So let's read. And then we're going to discuss, the legalities of what is about to happen and what it meant for people back then and what it means for us now. Let's read. I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a book, written inside and outside, sealed shut with 7 seals. I saw a mighty angel proclaiming with a loud voice,
"Who is worthy to open the book and to break its seals?"
No one in heaven above, or on the earth, or under the earth was able to open the book or to look in it. Then I wept much, because no one was found worthy to open the book or look in it. One of the elders said to me,
"Do not weep. Behold, the Lion who is of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has overcome. He who opens the book and its 7 seals."
I saw in the middle of the throne, and of the 4 living creatures, and in the middle of the elders, a lamb, standing as though it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, sent out into all the earth. Then he came, and he took it out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. Now when he had taken the book, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each one having a harp, and golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. They sang a new song, saying,
"You are worthy to take the book and to open its seals, for you were killed and bought us for God with your blood, out of every tribe, language, people, and nation, and made us kings and priests to our God, and we will reign on the earth."
I saw and I heard something like a voice of many angels around the throne, the living creatures, and the elders. The number of them was 10,000s of 10,000s and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice,
"Worthy is the Lamb who has been killed to receive the power, wealth, wisdom, strength, honor, glory, and blessing."
I heard every created thing which is in heaven, on the earth, under the earth, on the sea, and everything in them, saying,
To him who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb be the blessing, the honour, the glory, and the dominion, forever and ever. Amen.
The 4 living creatures said,
Amen.
Then the elders fell down and worshipped. Okay, so they're in the throne room, and it turns out there's a book, and this book has got writing on both sides, and it's got 7 seals. That book is a big clue that we're dealing with legal matters. You might say, well, how do we know that? And it's very easy, because it's got writing on both sides and because it's sealed with seals. There are a lot of covenants in the Old Testament, and the Lord makes, I think, 7 different covenants. There's a covenant with Noah, and each covenant has a sign, and Noah's sign was a rainbow. And there's a lot can be said about covenant, but when we get to the covenant in the desert, there's 10 commandments. These 10 commandments are written on both sides. So it's like a legal document that's written on the front and the back. Now, you might not have realized that about the 10 commandments, but the 10 commandments, they're often pictured, like Moses coming down the mountain, like in the 10 commandments movie, and he's holding these 2 10 commandments. And it's like, this one's got half of the commandments and this other one's got the other half, but it's not like that. Rather, the 2 tablets are like copies of the same thing. It's like when you go and you sign a contract for a house, for example, you get a copy, but there are other copies. It's like the real estate agent, he gets a copy too. The buyer gets a copy, the seller gets a copy, and the real estate gets a copy. There's multiple copies. And so when the Lord makes a covenant with Israel at Mount Sinai, there's 2 copies. There's a copy for Israel, and there's a copy for God. There's 2 copies, and they're double-sided. And this whole thing of them being written on the front and the back, that's a clue. That's a symbol that we've got right here in the book of Revelation. Here we have a document that's written on both sides, and that's a clue. This is a legal document, and it's sealed with seals. And what would often happen with important documents is they would be sealed in the presence of witnesses so that what was written on the inside was legit. It was known who wrote it, and it was known that no one else has messed it up. Those seals, you can tell when a seal is tampered with because the wax will break. We have here a document that's got seals on it. So we have got something inside this document of a legal nature, and it's been sealed shut so that it will only be opened by the right person in the right circumstance, and what's in it is legitimate. So what we're looking at here is a court situation where we need the right legal circumstances to open this certain document. Now, this book, this translation calls it a book, but different translations call it a scroll. The word in Greek is biblion, which the word Bible is just the word book, like in ancient times. The city of Byblos in Phoenicia was where they first came up with like papyrus and started putting papyrus in this certain way that would make like a book. So that's where the word book comes from, like the word Bible. Here it's the word biblion, which leads me to feel like it really was a book. But some translations say it's a scroll. But what we've got here is a legal document that's been sealed shut. It's got writing on both sides. It's a testament of some type, and it's about to be opened. We're in a courtroom. There's a legal document. There's something about to be opened. There's something written inside, and we're about to find out all about it. But there's a problem. It turns out only a certain type of person is allowed to open this particular document. It has to be someone who's qualified to open it, not just any old person. So in this chapter, there's weeping because there seemed to be nobody who was qualified to open this particular document. But finally, it said that the Lamb has triumphed. The Lamb has overcome. He is worthy to take the scroll. And there's a whole song about it. There are only 2 songs in the book of Revelation, one here in chapter 5 and one in chapter 15. And here they sing a song and they say, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open the seals because you were slain." This is Jesus. Jesus was slain. Jesus purchased with his blood people from every tribe, every language, and every nation, and made them to be a kingdom of priests. Now, one of the big issues going on at the time that this is written was that there was a kind of like civil war in Judaism. I've talked about this many times. There were Jews who rejected the Christians because the Christians were following Jesus. There were Jews who accepted Jesus and they said he's the Messiah, but there were other Jews that rejected Jesus and said he's not the Messiah. So there's this like split in Judaism. I call it a civil war, but it's not a civil war like a normal type of civil war. Normally with a civil war, there's 2 sides fighting each other. But in this particular case, there's a fight of ideas, I guess you could say, but in terms of actual physical fighting, the Jews were persecuting the Jews who'd accepted Jesus and the Christians. And one of their big beefs was not only that Jesus wasn't the Messiah, they didn't think that was the case at all, but another one of their big beefs was that these Christians were saying that everyone was included. But the Jews were saying, the Jews that rejected Jesus were saying, no, only we are the chosen people. Do you notice right here that Jesus is worthy? The Lamb is worthy because why? He purchased with his blood people from every tribe and every nation and every language. In other words, Gentiles. Jesus is worthy because he's made the way open not just for Jews, but for Gentiles and Jews. And it says he makes them to be a kingdom of priests to serve God, and they will reign on the earth. In other words, anyone who has faith in Jesus, they are the chosen people. Well, that's all part of what caused this civil war in Judaism. But Jesus is worthy not just because he died to forgive, but because he's a conqueror. So worthy, and they're singing this song, this new song, worthy is the Lamb who was slain, and he will receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise. So we find out two things. Well, we find out not only is it a courtroom scene, and we find out not only is it a worship service, and not only is God being worshipped, but we find out that Jesus is being worshipped too. That Jesus and God are being worshipped together. And we find out that Jesus meets the legal requirements to open this scroll. So there's a court case, and there are legal requirements. The right type of person is needed to open this legal document, and it turns out it's Jesus. Because Christ went to the cross, he met the legal requirements to open this document, and for whatever is about to happen, it's because of Jesus. Jesus definitely went to the cross. We call it the atonement. And at the atonement, he died for us. He died for sinners. And but he did a lot more than just die for sinners. He conquered the nations. He defeated the devil. He met legal requirements. He ticked off a number of boxes. And as a result of that, he's worthy of worship. And in this case, he's worthy to open the scroll. It says here at the end that the 4 living creatures said, Amen. And all the elders fell down and worshipped. And or it says here, every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and on the sea, basically everything that ever lived, said, to him who sits on the throne, which is God, and to the Lamb, which is Jesus, to him be all praise and glory forever. Elsewhere in the Bible, it says that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus is Lord. And well, you can see it happening right here. He is the Lord. So I said, we've got the book of Revelation is a revelation of Jesus, and it's a worship service. Well, it's all going on here in chapter 5. Now, one last point. There's about to be something dramatic happen. That's going to happen in chapter 6. And from chapter 6 on, we're going to start to see all the dramatic things will happen as a result of these seals being cracked off the book. The court case is about to hit full swing. Judgments are about to happen. Worship's going to continue happening. The Lord is going to do things. These are not things that are going to happen in our future. These are things that the Lord did in history. They were in the future of the 7 churches to whom this was written, but they're in our past. These are things that God did. And when we learn what he did, the result is our praise and worship goes to him. Lord, you are worthy. Not only were you worthy to open the seals, but Lord, you are worthy for our worship, worthy of our love and our attention. And we pause to give it to you today. Amen.